The United States is one of the most powerful countries in modern history. Its economy shaped the world, its wars changed global power, its culture spread across continents, its technology transformed daily life, and its political model influenced nations far beyond its borders. But how did the United States become the country we know today? How did a group of colonies on the eastern edge of North America become a global superpower? How did a nation built on liberty also carry deep contradictions from the very beginning? And how did it rise through revolution, expansion, civil war, industrialization, world wars, and global dominance? In this video, we are going to explore the history of the United States in a simple, clear, and engaging way, from the early colonies to the modern era. To understand the United States, we have to begin before the country existed. Long before Washington, New York, or the American Revolution, the land that would become the United States was inhabited by diverse indigenous peoples. These societies were not one single culture. They were many nations, languages, political systems, and ways of life spread across a vast continent. Some lived in powerful confederacies. Some built agricultural societies. Some were highly mobile. Some created large settlements and trade networks. Each had its own world, traditions, and authority. Then came European expansion. From the 16th century onward, European powers began exploring, trading, and colonizing parts of North America. Spain, France, the Netherlands, and especially Britain all sought influence and territory. Over time, the British colonies along the Atlantic coast became especially important. These colonies were not all the same. Some were founded for profit, some for religious reasons. Some developed around trade, ports, and commerce. Others were more agricultural. But together, they gradually formed the foundation of what would become the United States. Life in the colonies was shaped by opportunity, hardship, conflict, and contradiction. European settlers built new communities, but this expansion came at a devastating cost for indigenous peoples who faced war, displacement, disease, and growing loss of land. At the same time, slavery became a central part of colonial development, especially in the southern colonies. This is one of the deepest contradictions in American history. The future United States would speak the language of liberty while also being built in part on conquest and slavery. As the colonies grew, tensions with Britain increased. At first, many colonists still saw themselves as loyal subjects of the British Crown. But disputes over taxation, representation, and political authority created growing anger. The British government wanted greater control and more revenue. Many colonists believed their rights were being violated. This conflict eventually led to one of the most important turning points in modern history: the American Revolution. In 1776, the colonies declared independence. This was not just a colonial rebellion, it was a revolutionary political moment. The Declaration of Independence announced ideas that would echo around the world: liberty, rights, self-government, and the rejection of tyranny. But those ideals existed alongside harsh realities. Women did not have equal political rights. Slavery continued. Indigenous nations were excluded from the new political vision. Even so, the revolution changed history. After war with Britain, the United States emerged as an independent country. Now came the next challenge. How do you build a nation? The early republic was fragile. Its leaders had won independence, but they still had to create institutions strong enough to hold the country together. The Constitution established a new political system with separated powers, elections, and federal authority. It was a remarkable experiment, but also a compromise-filled system shaped by fear of tyranny, elite interests, and sectional division. George Washington became the first president and helped set the tone for the early republic. The United States was still small, still uncertain, and still far from the superpower it would later become. Then came expansion. In the 19th century, the United States grew dramatically. Through purchases, treaties, war, migration, and settlement, it pushed westward across the continent. This expansion became one of the defining forces of American history. It created opportunity for many settlers. It expanded economic power. It increased national ambition. But it also intensified displacement, violence, and dispossession for indigenous peoples across North America. The idea of manifest destiny, the belief that the United States was meant to expand across the continent, became one of the most powerful and dangerous ideas in American history. The country grew, but so did its contradictions. The biggest contradiction of all was slavery. As the United States expanded, conflict deepened over whether new territories would allow slavery. The North and South were becoming more divided economically, politically, and morally. One part of the country moved increasingly toward industrialization and wage labor. The other remained deeply tied to plantation agriculture and enslaved labor. These tensions could not be contained forever. Eventually, they exploded into the Civil War. The American Civil War was one of the most defining events in the country's history. It was a struggle over union, power, slavery, and the future of the nation itself. The war was catastrophic. Hundreds of thousands died. The country was torn apart. Entire regions were devastated. But the result was historic. The Union survived. Slavery was formally abolished, and the United States emerged from the war transformed. Yet the end of slavery did not bring full justice. The Reconstruction era that followed brought major political change, but it was also met with violent resistance. African Americans briefly gained greater political rights and representation, but white supremacist systems reasserted control across much of the South. This is another major truth of American history. Progress in the United States has often been real, but incomplete. After the Civil War, the country entered a new age of industrial growth. Factories expanded, railroads connected the continent, cities grew rapidly, immigration surged. Wealth increased on a scale never seen before in American history. The United States was becoming an industrial giant. But once again, power and inequality grew side by side. Industrialization created enormous fortunes, but also brutal labor conditions, social unrest, corruption, and deep economic inequality. This was the age of tycoons, machines, steel, oil, finance, and massive transformation. By the end of the 19th century, the United States was no longer just a growing republic. It was becoming a major power. Then, in the 20th century, America's role in the world changed dramatically. The First World War marked a turning point. The United States entered the war later than the European powers, but its intervention helped shape the final balance. Then came the 1920s, a period of cultural change, economic growth, and modern energy. But that prosperity did not last. The Great Depression brought economic collapse on a massive scale. Banks failed. Businesses collapsed. Millions lost jobs. Confidence shattered. The United States faced one of the greatest crises in its history. Franklin D. Roosevelt and the New Deal reshaped the role of government, expanding federal action in response to economic disaster. Then came the Second World War. This war changed everything. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States entered the conflict fully. Its industrial power, military expansion, and global role helped make it one of the decisive victors of the war. By 1945, the United States was no longer simply a major nation. It was one of the central powers of the modern world. After the war, America emerged stronger than almost any other country. Its economy boomed, its military reach expanded, its influence spread through politics, culture, finance, science, and technology. But victory did not bring peace in a simple sense. The Cold War began. Now the United States faced a new global rivalry with the Soviet Union. This conflict shaped world politics for decades. It affected military strategy, diplomacy, ideology, intelligence, economics, and war across multiple regions. The United States presented itself as the leader of the free world. At the same time, it became deeply involved in proxy wars, interventions, global alliances, and nuclear competition. At home, American society was also changing. The civil rights movement challenged segregation, racism, and exclusion. Activists fought to push the United States closer to the ideals it had long claimed to represent. This struggle became one of the most morally important chapters in American history. The country also experienced conflict over Vietnam, social change, political scandal, cultural revolution, and shifting economic structures. Even while America projected power abroad, it remained deeply divided at home. And that pattern never fully disappeared. By the late 20th century, the United States had become the world's dominant superpower. The Soviet Union collapsed. American military, economic, and cultural influence reached extraordinary levels. Hollywood, technology, finance, media, and consumer culture gave the United States unmatched global visibility. Yet dominance also brought new challenges. Wars in the Middle East, political polarization, economic inequality, social division, and debates over identity, democracy, and power all intensified in the 21st century. America remained powerful, but it also appeared increasingly uncertain about itself. And that may be one of the most important things to understand about the history of the United States. It is not a straight story of progress. It is not simply a heroic rise. It is the story of enormous energy, ambition, invention, conflict, contradiction, and reinvention. From colonies to republic, from republic to continental power, from civil war to industrial giant, from world war to superpower, from superpower to a nation still struggling with the meaning of its own ideals. That is why American history matters so much, because the United States did not just shape itself, it shaped the modern world. Its revolution influenced political thought. Its constitution became a model for some and a point of debate for others. Its economy transformed global markets. Its wars changed world power. Its culture reached nearly everywhere. At the same time, its history forces difficult questions. Can a country built on freedom also be built on exclusion? Can power and principle coexist? Can national ideals survive inequality, division, and empire? Can democracy remain stable under pressure? Those questions are not only American, but American history makes them impossible to ignore. That is why the story of the United States continues to fascinate people around the world. Because America is not just one country among many. It is one of the clearest examples of how power, ideals, violence, opportunity, contradiction, and reinvention can all exist in the same national story. And in many ways, that story is still unfolding. So now tell me what you think. What is the most defining turning point in American history? The Revolution, the Civil War, or the Second World War? If you enjoyed this documentary, like the video, subscribe for more, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story about the nations, empires, and civilizations that shaped our world. Because to understand the present, we have to understand the past. And few stories make that clearer than the story of the United States.